Flying blind. The mechanics of failure at BP Texas City. On March 23, 2005, the BP Texas City refinery suffered one of the worst industrial disasters in recent United States history. This presentation is a forensic breakdown of how that happened, not as a single freak event, but as a chain of instrumentation failures, degraded safeguards, and management choices. The core lesson is brutally simple. When operators lose sight of physical reality, the plant starts writing its own ending. March 23, 2005, 1:20 p.m. At 1:20 in the afternoon, an overfilled raffinate splitter tower sent flammable hydrocarbons into a blowdown system that vented to the atmosphere instead of a flare. The result was 15 fatalities, more than 180 injuries, a shelter-in-place order for 43,000 people, and losses exceeding $1.5 billion. The explosion's epicenter was the isomerization unit, especially the temporary contractor trailers placed dangerously close to the process area. Disasters are engineered through deferred maintenance. This disaster was not spontaneous, and it was not just one operator making one bad move. It was built over time through deferred maintenance, weak mechanical integrity, and a culture that normalized deviation from procedure. The real story is not just what failed on March 23rd. The real story is why known problems were allowed to sit there long enough to become fatal. The apparatus, isom raffinate splitter. The raffinate splitter's job was to separate straight-chain hydrocarbons into higher octane products for gasoline blending. But this tower depended heavily on manual operation and a handful of critical instruments to keep it from overfilling. There was no automatic high-level shutdown interlock to save the day. If the instruments lied, and if operators believed them, the unit had very little protection left. The fatal disconnect, March 23rd, timeline. This slide shows the deadly gap between what operators saw on the control system and what was actually happening inside the tower. At 3:09 in the morning, one alarm sounded, but the redundant high-level alarm stayed silent. By 11:16, the board showed about 93% level, while the real liquid level had climbed to 67 feet. By 12:41, the display suggested about 80% and falling, but the tower was actually around 140 feet full and nearing disaster. 1:04 p.m., the blind pilot. By 1:04 in the afternoon, the real liquid level inside the 170-foot tower had reached 158 feet. But the control board still showed only 78%, or about 7.9 feet, on the transmitter's scale. So the operators were effectively flying blind. Believing the level was low and falling, they kept feeding the system and trying to protect the furnace, not realizing the column was almost completely full. The instrument autopsies. Now we move from the big picture into the 5 specific failures that broke the operator's dashboard. These were not random breakages. They were predictable outcomes of corrosion, miscalibration, poor testing methods, incomplete maintenance records, and repairs that were deferred even though the unit was about to start up. Each failed layer made the next bad decision more likely. Autopsy 01, LT 5100 level transmitter. The level transmitter was supposed to tell the control room how much liquid was in the tower. Instead, it falsely reported that the level was dropping, even while the tower kept filling. The root problem was thermodynamic and maintenance related. It had been calibrated for the wrong specific gravity, and as the liquid heated up and became less dense, the displacer sank deeper and mechanically created a false, dropping level signal. Management knew repairs were needed, but deferred them until after startup. That is, industrial Russian roulette with a clipboard. Autopsy 02, LSH 51102, high-level alarm. This redundant high-level alarm was supposed to be the independent backup warning if the tower reached a dangerous level. It never sounded. The internal mechanism was worn, misaligned, and physically bound, so the alarm stayed silent when it was needed most. Worse, maintenance records showed it had already been reported as non-functioning multiple times, and work orders were closed without verifying the repair had actually been completed. Autopsy 03, LG 102A, B sight glass. The sight glass was supposed to give operators a simple visual truth check. Instead, it was completely unreadable because the inside had been coated with years of dark hydrocarbon deposits. That meant the operators had no trustworthy visual backup to challenge the false transmitter reading. So one of the most basic safeguards in the entire system became a piece of dirty glass bolted to the side of a tower. Autopsy 04, PCV 5002, pressure control valve. This manual pressure vent valve was supposed to help relieve non-condensable gases during startup and prevent pressure spikes. During pre-startup checks, it failed to open when commanded. Even so, startup was authorized anyway, forcing operators to rely on a chain-operated manual valve as a workaround. So a known bad pressure control element was accepted before the system was even brought online. Autopsy 05, LSH 5U28, blowdown drum alarm. This was the last line of defense. If liquid started filling the blowdown drum, this alarm should have warned operators before the stack turned into a hydrocarbon geyser. Instead, the alarm never sounded because the float had corroded, developed a hole, filled with liquid, and sank. The truly maddening part is the test method. Technicians often rodded the float by physically pushing it, which bypassed the actual physics of buoyancy and hid the defect for months. That is not testing. That is fooling yourself with extra steps. The physics of the overflow. Once the tower was badly overfilled with subcooled liquid, the furnace burners heated that liquid rapidly. As the fluid temperature rose, the liquid expanded and began to boil violently. This was no longer normal distillation behavior. It became a solid rising column of flammable hydrocarbon driven upward until it spilled into the overhead vapor line. The system was no longer separating product. It was becoming a giant pressurized launcher. The hydrostatic trap. Here is the nasty bit of physics that made the relief valves open. The overhead line ran 148 feet down the side of the tower to the relief valves. Once that pipe filled with liquid, the hydrostatic head added about 42 pounds per square inch gauge at the bottom. Add that to the normal tower pressure of roughly 22 pounds per square inch gauge, and the relief valves suddenly saw around 64 pounds per square inch gauge. Their set points were about 40 to 42, so all three opened. No dramatic vapor surge was needed. Simple liquid head did the job. Physics does not care about what the board operator hoped was happening. The geyser. A 1950s relic. Fails. For just over 6 minutes, all three relief valves discharged at capacity. About 51,900 gallons of flammable liquid went into an old blowdown drum and atmospheric stack that had never been connected to a flare. This was a disposal design from the 1950s, still being trusted in 2005. Once the drum filled, boiling hydrocarbons blasted out of the 113-foot stack and rained back down into the unit. A modern flare system would have been a very different story. Confinement and ignition. As the hot liquid fell, it atomized, pooled, evaporated, and formed a wide flammable vapor cloud at ground level. The most likely ignition source was an idling diesel pickup truck parked about 25 feet from the blowdown drum. Witnesses reported the engine over-revving and backfiring as the vapor cloud reached it. And the deadliest part of all was trailer sighting. Contractor trailers had been placed as close as 121 feet from the blowdown drum, right where people were most exposed when the cloud ignited. Synthesis, a compromised toolkit. Put the 5 failures together and the pattern is obvious. The level transmitter was miscalibrated. The redundant tower alarm was broken. The sight glass was unreadable. The pressure vent valve failed pre-startup checks. The blowdown drum alarm had a hidden defect masked by bad testing. A real pre-startup safety review could have forced those issues into the daylight, but that review was not completed. So management knowingly started a hazardous unit with a broken operator dashboard. The normalization of deviance. One of the deepest lessons here is that the abnormal had become normal. The CSB found that procedural deviations made on March 23rd were common in 18 previous startups. In 14 of 19 startups, the tower had major pressure excursions, and in many cases operators filled the tower above the transmitter range to avoid losing level and damaging the furnace. Because these repeated deviations were not treated as near misses, they stopped looking dangerous and started looking routine. That is how deviance gets normalized. Not with one reckless act, but with dozens of tolerated ones. The blueprint to ruin. The BP Texas City disaster proves that catastrophic events often grow out of ordinary, neglected things. A dirty sight glass, a miscalibrated transmitter, a corroded float, a failed valve, a bad testing method, and the production pressure to keep moving anyway. The final lesson is not just maintain your instruments. It is bigger than that. When process safety is traded away for schedule, cost, or convenience, you force operators to fly blind. And sooner or later, physics sends the invoice.